Anyhow, Andrew here. Welcome to the Onion Buns. So, I've been doing a lot of videos for the last week or so about, related, adjacent to Charlie Kirk. I like Charlie Kirk, but I wasn't a big, rabid supporter of him. It's kind of like Elon Musk. It's like, I don't agree with everything Elon does. I agree with some of it, but I like Elon Musk because he's an inventor. He's a thinker, and he brings concepts into the world. Well, it was the same with Charlie. I like Charlie for how articulate he was, how intelligent he was. He was a great speaker. He had an eidetic memory. Like I'm so jealous of the way he can just nail off facts and cite instances and everything. And that made me appreciate him. I didn't agree with him on everything. Like, I myself am not a religious person. I have no problem with people being religious. I encourage them. If they find peace and solitude and happiness from religion, all the power to them. Just my only request, which I'm very ardent on, is don't push your religion on me. And I've cut people out of my lives for doing exactly that. Like if I help a woman, here's a classic example. And this was a few years ago. I went to the local superstore here in Edmonton, and I'm pushing the cart down the aisle, and I see at the end of the aisle, there's a little old Chinese lady, and she is struggling to reach up to the top of this massive display and grab a 12-pack of Pepsi. And you could tell, I was 3/4 of the way down the aisle, and I could tell this was not going to end well for her because she's on her tiptoes and she's shaking, and it wasn't going to come out well for her. And people were just walking by her, ignoring her. I think I saw a couple of people even laugh at her, which is so ignorant. So I pushed the cart down to the end of the aisle, and I got over there and I said, "Excuse me," and I got up there and I grabbed the top piece and I brought it down. I put it in her cart, and she was so thankful. So thankful. Like she had glee all over her face. And that was all the reward I needed. That made me feel great. So I came home and I posted on Facebook, and I said, I just did this, share the story, and, felt great. So I get a phone call. "Oh, God bless, God bless, God bless." I'm like, what? God's got nothing to do with this. I did a good deed. I feel good about it. It helped the woman. Leave it at that. "Oh, no. God is looking down on you, and God bless, and God this, and God this, and God." And I'm like, stop. I get it. You're religious. That's your thing. I'm not religious. Don't push it on me. Don't try to give God credit for what I did. I did a good deed. Say, "Nice job, Andy. That woman appreciated it," and drop it. And no word of a lie, I must have heard "God bless" 10 to 15 more times in that phone call, because this went right over this person's head. They can't understand that their religion is not everybody else's religion. Their faith is not everybody else's faith. And I don't begrudge them for having their faith. I actually encourage it. If you can find peace, happiness, and solitude from going to church and being around like-minded people, then do it. By all means, do it. But don't push it on other people. So anyway, that's just the way I am. And so that's not what this topic's about. That's just sort of like a preamble to, how I approach life, really. It's like, you do you, and as long as you're not hurting anybody, do you, and it's that simple. It's like, if you're a churchgoer or mosque or temple or whatever religion you want to talk, you go to your church, you go to your temple, you go to your mosque, and you pray, celebrate, whatever there. In your own home, that's your home. You pray, celebrate there. But you don't push it on people outside. So, I find, unfortunately, those people are getting more and more aggressive and pushing it. It's no longer enough for them to be happy. They need to push their views on everybody else. And obviously I'm not pushing my view on them. I'm just saying, you go be you, do you, be happy, be content in your choices. And I don't understand why that's such a hard thing for people. So why I brought that up is one of the things I've found is in politics, this has become the thing. Pushing your ideology and your agenda. It doesn't matter if other people want to hear it. You want to push it. It's like my Facebook. I very carefully craft my Facebook outside of my original friend list of people I knew and grew up with who, most of them don't share my views, as I found out. I don't know what happened in Alberta after I left Alberta, but whatever. Again, each their own. And I've had to unfriend a few friends over the years because it's like, you can have whatever views you want to have. Just if you're coming on my timeline, you have to deal in facts. Like, I'm not interested in your ideology. If you want to discuss what I'm discussing, you need to counter it with facts. And that's one of the reasons why I like Charlie Kirk so much, is that's what he did, is he dealt in facts as he saw them. But like I said, with Charlie, he was very religious. I'm not religious, so I didn't agree with Charlie on the religion part. But whatever, I had I could always just go click and turn it off. I didn't have to sit there and listen to what he was saying. The left, however, they won't do that. They refuse to do that. They will sit there and they will listen, and then they will manipulate it, and they will twist it, and they will try to create it into something it never was. And I find that so freaking dishonest. And it's one of the reasons why I can't stand the modern left anymore. Now, full transparency, in the 1990s, I voted for the Liberals in Canada. I voted for Jean Chrétien, and except for the sponsorship scandal, I was actually quite happy with the job Jean Chrétien did. Him and Paul Martin corrected the disastrous fiscal record of Pierre Elliott Trudeau. And, they did a great job until the Liberals do what they always do. They got entitled, and their entitlement killed them. There's the famous quote out there, "I am entitled to my entitlement." And that was a Liberal MP when he was being challenged on unethical behavior. And so I have no problem voting center left because that's what Jean Chrétien was. But once Jean was out of there, that's when I started having a problem with the Liberals. Now, I'll never vote NDP, just again, full transparency. I am not a socialist. I will never be a socialist. Now, it's funny. When I say that, I have socialist friends, and they will say, well, socialism brought this, and I'm like, yeah, you can pick and choose some good concepts, but on a whole, I am not a socialist. Just because there's a concept here or a concept there doesn't mean I'm diabetic. You put a cake in front of me, I'm cutting a little piece, just a tiny little sliver, and that's what I'm eating. I don't have to eat the whole cake because it's in front of me, because that's not healthy, but I can have that little sliver, and that's perfectly valid and healthy and enjoyable. And that's how I view socialism. I can look at the few little parts that are positive out of socialism, but on a whole, it's not healthy, and I'll never be a socialist. But the Liberals were at one time a center-left party. They're not anymore, but they were at one time, and I could see the value in a center-left party. I've said it many times. I think Canada is best served with the Conservatives in the center-right, which they are, and the Liberals in the center-left, which they're not. You have two parties, center-right, center-left, and they're not going to agree on everything, but at least they're in that moderate area where they can have discussions and conversations. Because there's no discussions or conversations right now. Carney thinks he's a king, and he's acting like he has this massive majority when he's got a minority, and it very well might fall soon because he's just gorging himself like a pig, really. He's just loading up his Brookfield accounts and his stocks, and he just put out a list of 10 projects he wants to get done, of which 7 of them directly impact his wealth. I don't know about you guys. That's corruption to me. That's corruption 101. And he seems to think, and the liberals out there seem to think, there's no problem with this. So I can't stand the modern left. And I think my hatred of them is actually growing this week. Watching the disgusting displays of them being so gleeful and happy and celebrating that a man who only ever used words was assassinated. And they are over the moon happy about this. And they're calling for other people to be assassinated. It's mind-boggling. Like I've said before, I don't do extremist politics. I don't do extreme right. I don't do extreme left. And I read a study recently that in the States, this was from the States, not Canada, but I'm absolutely positive this applies in Canada. It just hasn't been done, the study. But they did a study where they talked to students and they asked them about their politics. And 50% of the students said they were Republican. And then they said, and they were terrified to admit this openly because of fear of violence from the radical left and their teachers. What the hell is going on that kids who are in school, and like when they're in school, this is when they should be developing their own minds and their own thinking and coming to their own conclusions. And that's what they've done. This 50% is done, and yet they're fearful. They're terrified. And this is how the modern day left operates. Like here's a great story. My last name, I don't know if I've ever told this, but I've done a couple videos where you could have seen it. My last name is Hofer. And what that name is it's a Hutterite name. Now, I was not a Hutterite. I've never been a Hutterite. But my ancestry is Hutterite. Well, my adopted ancestry, I'm adopted. And yet, I have lost count how many times the left have tried to call me a Nazi. If they had any common sense or critical thinking, they would know that next to the Jewish people, the most oppressed people in Nazi Germany that fled the country were the Hutterites. The Hutterites left the country to get away from Hitler. So it's absolutely insane to call somebody you don't know that word because you don't understand history. It baffles me. Like, how are people this frickin' stupid? Like me, I deal in facts. That's what I like to deal in. And I can be fooled. Like I'll post stuff on Facebook or X where when I look back at it, I go, okay, I should have recognized that was AI or that wasn't real or something. And we all do it. That's fine. But to just blanket and I'm a moderate politically, so I'm not right wing. But if you talk to a modern day left winger, I am a far righter. Like between that word, I also get called Trump lover all the time. And it's like, I don't like Trump. I've never liked Trump. I didn't like Trump when he was a beloved Democrat, and he was. The Democrats loved that man when he was giving them money. I didn't like him when he was a C-grade celebrity doing The Apprentice show. But again, there were spots that made me laugh, like I hate Rosie O'Donnell, so watching Trump go at Rosie just made me giggle. But that wasn't because I liked Trump. That was more about because I didn't like Rosie O'Donnell. And I don't like him as a Republican president. I think the tariffs are an absolute travesty here in Canada. But I don't think the tariffs cause the problems in Canada that the Carney and the Liberals and the NDP try to tell everybody they do. Now, Canada, the biggest problem in Canada is the Liberal Party, the modern Liberal Party. They have done more damage than Trump could ever do in a million years. But Carney and them got low information voters to focus on Trump, big bad orange man, rather than focus on our economy, our crime, our immigration, and on and on and on. It's like all of these things the Liberals absolutely destroyed in Canada. It wasn't Trump. Trump did the tariffs. And again, I don't agree with the tariffs. I we have free trade in Canada and the US, and it should be free trade. There should be no tariffs. And I say that about Canada too. Supply management has to end. There should be no tariffs. But there is, and that's a reality. So we need a leader here in Canada that will work with that and fix that. Sadly, we don't have that leader right now. But anyway, it's like I can't stand this modern day left party. They are so hateful, so intolerant, so divisive, so spiteful, and as we're seeing, violent. Oh, and just to give an idea of how twisted these people really are, if you've watched any of my Charlie Kirk videos, they're actually pretty calm. I actually don't talk about his politics. I talk about what I said in this video about why I liked him, how he approached things, and just the absurdity of killing somebody because you didn't like that he was a better debater than you. You know, that's mostly what I talked about. And on a few videos, I've pointed out just the absolute absurdity of these modern day left-wingers and their behavior, celebrating, cheering about how he was assassinated. You know, but for the most part, my videos are actually quite tame. I got a death threat. Some random person, don't know who it was, wasn't a subscriber, came onto my channel, death threat. Now, I can't show you the image because this is my own fault, is when I get that sort of stuff, my natural instinct is to ban and delete the post. And that's what I did. So I can't pull it up and I can't even tell you the name. I wish I'd taken a screenshot, and now that it's in my head, if it ever happens again, and I'm pretty sure it's going to happen again because these people are getting more and more out of control daily. It's in my brain now that I will screenshot it and then save it so that I can show people in a video, this person said this, here's the evidence. For now, you're just going to have to take my word on this one instance. But yeah, he came in and, basically just said I deserve to die too. It's insane, people. It's absolutely insane. And the frustrating part to me on this is, like, I'm not the toughest guy alive, though I'm also not the weakest guy alive. And I guarantee you 90% of these people mouthing off online, if they ever met me face to face, it would be, yes, sir. No, sir. How high would you like me to jump, sir? Oh, please, sir. Can I have some more, sir? I've seen this happen. Like, I've had run-ins with these people, and that's always how it turns out. They're not brave people, except when they're online. They're fucking cowards, to be honest. They're mouthpieces. So anyway, yeah, that was the one that really pushed me over the top. It's like, you came onto my YouTube channel, my little YouTube channel with, I think I had 93 subscribers at that point. So I'm literally a nobody. I'm not even monetized. I'm not even at 10%, on my way to becoming monetized. And you offered absolutely nothing except a death threat. What is wrong with these people? Seriously. Somebody answer this one to me, because I don't get it. I really don't get it. What is wrong with these people? Now, I've said this in another video, and I'll say it again. The left better pray the right don't start using their tactics. Because the day the right-wingers, especially in the States, but it's true here in Canada too, the day the right-wingers use the left's tactics, the left loses. Overnight. Boom, done. Because if it comes down to physical conflict, the left's got absolutely no footing to stand on. They will get destroyed. And I'm not advocating for violence. Actually, I'm saying exactly the opposite, because I hate the left for what they did to Charlie Kirk. I hate the left for trying to kill Trump twice. Every single instance of violence I can think of in the last 20 years has come from the left. It hasn't come from the right. It's come from the left, because that's what they are now, is they're a violent cult. There's no other way to put it. They've been radicalized. And yeah, it's very depressing to me. We need to get, in Canada and the US, we need to get the parties back to the center. I really do believe that Canada and the US is best represented in the center. In Canada, we have the center right in Poilievre and his conservatives. The left calls them alt left or alt right, but they're not. They're center right. The problem is the Liberals and the NDP and the Greens are all radical extremist left wingers. The NDP are socialists. The Liberals and the Greens are globalists. But they're both radical extremists alt left. We need to get the Liberals, because I don't care about the Greens. The Green Party only exists to feed Elizabeth May's ego. That's all it's there for. The Green Party is the Liberals. It's just got Elizabeth May as a leader because she's that self-indulgent in herself when she's not falling down drunk. The NDP, they're socialists. The Liberals and the Greens, they're globalists. But we need to get the Liberals to the center left again. But the only way that's ever going to happen is if that party gets decimated in an election so badly that everybody gets cleaned out, all the trash gets cleaned out, and they get new people, quality people in there that move the party back to the center left. You will not get that party going to the center left with its current formation. They won't do it. So I don't know what it's going to take. It's like I was really hoping Poilievre would win the last election because Canada can't keep surviving this way. In the States, it's a little harder. States are a two-party system, and you got the Republicans on the far right, and you got the Democrats on the extreme alt-left. So there's nobody representing the middle in the States, and I don't know if that's ever going to change. So in the States, like I knew this person who, she has Trump derangement syndrome so bad. And during the last federal election in the States, she was going, if you had to vote for Kamala Harris, not talking like that hurts my throat, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, who would you vote for? And I said, I wouldn't vote for either of them. I don't do extremist politics. But if you had to vote for one of them, who would you vote for? Again, I wouldn't vote for either of them. I don't do extremist politics. But if you had to vote, I'm like, listen, I know what you're trying to do, and I reject the premise. I would not vote for either of them. I reject extremist politics, be it extreme right or extreme left. And no matter how many times you ask me this, I'm not going to change my answer. And that was during the campaign for the U.S. election. Well, last week changed my answer because if I was American, I still don't agree with Trump being far right. I don't agree with the Democrats being far left, but I would be voting Republican if I was American because, again, I look at it, I don't see any violence coming out of the far right in America. And by that, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and those guys because those are like a very small fringe. I'm talking about the base of the Republican Party. They're very far to the right, but they're not violent. They try to talk it out. They win elections. They do like Trump, whether you agree with him or not, he's just doing what he campaigned on doing. I wish Carney was doing what he campaigned on doing because he ran a very conservative election campaign and then he got elected in and he immediately went back to the extreme radical alt-left globalist corruption. So if I was American, as of last week, because of the behavior of the alt-left, I would be voting Republican. And that's not me endorsing far right. That is me recognizing that of these two extremist groups, one of them is evil and dangerous. The other one is probably just best way to describe it is misguided. Trump is misguided. The Democrats, they are evil and dangerous. And like in Canada, getting rid of the Liberals, the U.S. has got to clean out the Democrats and get quality people in there who will move back to the center left. This extremist stuff it's going to tear North America apart. So anyway, that's why I hate the modern day left. I am a moderate. I support center left. I support center right. I don't do the extremes. And if you force me to do the extremes, I'm going to look at the extremes that are going to do the least amount of damage. And right now in the States, like it or not, that's the Republicans. Because what we're seeing out of the left wing, this is a mental disease. It is a bona fide mental disease. The other stat I saw recently is they polled a bunch of Democrats in the States, and they found 65% of the Democrats were technically classified as radicalized. This is what they are projecting. This is what they are telling people. So that leaves 35% that still have a functioning brain, like Bill Maher. Bill Maher is left wing, but I ever since he's rejected the alt left, I've really started to enjoy Bill Maher again, even though he is left wing, because he's rejected the extremist portion of the party. Unfortunately, the study shows that 65% of that party is radicalized extremists. So, yeah, I have no respect for the modern day left. I really don't. And the sooner they are removed from power, the better. These teachers that are cheering the assassination, they have to be removed from the teaching jobs. They cannot be allowed to keep indoctrinating and manipulating children. They can't. If you think that's productive conversation, cheering somebody's death, there's something wrong with you. The only people that should be dying are murderers, terrorists, and child molesters. Those are the people that should be dying. Somebody who has a different opinion of you, you can call them a jackass, but they don't deserve to die. It baffles me what's going on. It really does. Anyway, that's my video this week. If you like this video, leave a like, a subscribe, and a share. I'm trying to grow my channel, and a like, a subscribe, and a share does me wonders, and I do appreciate it. Takes 1 second to subscribe, costs you absolutely nothing, helps me immensely. Just hit the subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. Always feel free to leave a comment. I encourage everybody to leave a comment, good or bad. As long as you're polite, as long as you're not a psychotic idiot, I have no problem with people disagreeing with me. So leave a comment, gets us interacting. And it really does help me with the YouTube algorithm and getting more eyes on my videos. And as always, pew, 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 and shit. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.